Hi, welcome to Sisterhood Sessions.
Join us on the couch every Thursday to talk about love, dating, happiness, and everything in between
From a Gen Z
and a millennial perspective.
We are your intimate sisters, and we're all about entertaining, motivating, and inspiring you.
Now let's get into it.
Hello.
Hi everybody, welcome back.
Today we want to chat about vulnerability. So why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Let's get a little vulnerable with each other.
We need a bit more of that in this world.
We do. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So let's first touch on what is vulnerability. Well, at its root, vulnerability is sharing parts of yourself with others despite what others might think about you, in the aim of creating connection.
Yeah. It's like you're putting yourself at risk of shame and judgment when you put yourself in vulnerable positions, or, you open up about struggles, how you're dealing with things, whatever it may be. But there's benefits to it. It's a good thing at the end of the day.
It's definitely a risk that you take, sharing really, like parts of yourself that intuitively you want to hide.
It can be scary.
It can be super, super scary. But at the end of the day, we're all imperfect beings, and
that's okay.
That's so okay. And normalizing that is so important.
And then also because we can relate to each other in our, imperfectness. If that's even a word.
I'll take it.
Whatever. We're trying over here. I'm not a dictionary.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, how can you be vulnerable with people? Like, how does it work?
It's, it's sharing bits and pieces of you. If something's making you feel sad, speaking up about that. It's not being prideful and not having to hide all of your emotions and only show a happy, preppy, good side. Like being able to acknowledge sort of quote unquote negative emotions, like whether that's you're feeling anxious, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling tired, you're feeling sad about something. Being able to share that and enlighten those around you into how you are truly feeling, or, how you're experiencing certain things, it allows people to relate to you better. I think that's kind of like the biggest one. It allows people to empathize with you.
Yeah, that's super true. So I remember the first time I had this click in my mind about why vulnerability is so important. So I'm going to be vulnerable and share a little bit of my story. So when I was 12, my parents got divorced, and I won't go into detail out of respect for them, but it was a pretty rough divorce. I moved to a new country after that, and I went to a new school. And in my household, it was always family matters are private. You don't talk about it with other people. This stays between us. Just put on a brave face and keep going with your life, essentially, right? We weren't like a family that spoke about things in depth. That changed after a while, but at the time that wasn't what we were about. And so I was really struggling at the time. I just turned 13. I was the new kid at school. I felt like I wasn't allowed to talk about what was going on at home, and it was a really tough time. And I remember sitting down one day at lunch with a girl I hadn't spoken to before. We'd spoken in passing, and something compelled me to share what was going on. And so I opened up, and I told her what I was going through. And I was absolutely terrified because I felt like this is my deepest, darkest secret, and I'm so scared to even say it out loud. If I say it out loud, it's real. And I had no idea how somebody else might react, I thought, oh, she's gonna think I'm so weird, and she's
or less than.
Yeah, exactly. And what I got instead...
That's Billy drinking water, if you can hear it.
Because it's so loud. It's so hot right now.
And she's a pity with a big tongue, so it's big slurps.
Big slurps of water. Well, there's some comedic relief for you.
You're getting to the nitty gritty, Billy.
Seriously, it's like you're leaving them on a cliffhanger right now.
Stop.
Yeah, that's a long drink. She's really thirsty.
This is a brief intermission for you to grab a little drink.
Do 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 do. Anyway,
I'll just like speed that up.
Yeah. So, what I got instead, I remember, I still get goosebumps, honestly, is she told me her story in return. And she had gone through something super similar. And it's like something went off in my brain and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm not alone in experiencing something like this. Like other people can actually relate to me. I can relate to others. Like I feel validated in the way that I'm feeling. And at the same time, I also feel this huge weight off my shoulders. It was like a really impactful time in my life. And I'm still friends with Natasha to this day. We're having dinner next week. But yeah, that was my click moment where it went, okay, this is amazing.
Well, there's so many things with that. So if you're holding on to these emotions or like these secrets, it becomes exhausting. It literally becomes such a weight on your shoulders. You can become like resentful. Like in your situation, if you feel like you have to like hide what's going on in your family, it can like lead to feelings of resentment towards your family. Like, why am I like going around? Why am I feeling this way? Like, why I can't like I talk about these things? Why do I feel so like heavy and impacted by it? And then sharing that allows, brings a level of trust between you and whoever, because then they felt that you were trustworthy enough to then share their story back. So that friendship has grown. It's gone deeper. There's now a level of trust there. It's like now you guys can empathize with each other over the situation. Like there's so much like being vulnerable, and obviously you don't want to go around like telling everyone like every little detail of your life. Like
there's a limit, there's a time and a place. Look, vulnerability can be used for evil as well.
Yeah.
It can be a form of manipulation, right? If you're telling people, things that have happened to you that are really sad in the hopes of getting something out of them, that's a bad way to use vulnerability. But if we're talking about, in the moment you feel you've got a genuine connection with somebody and you feel as though sharing what you're going through is going to bring you closer, that's an amazing way to do it. And it doesn't also always have to be so, like, such a deep thing to talk about. It can be super simple. Like in the workplace, if you're feeling like, hey, I just don't feel like I am performing as well as my colleagues are performing, right? Rather than putting on this brave face and just keep going and just like, I've got this, and like, I can, I just won't say anything and no one will notice. There is so much strength in going to somebody who's on your team and saying, hey, I'm finding this project, or I'm finding, this particular task super challenging, and I don't feel like I'm performing as well as I could. Do you have any feedback for me? Is there any way you could give me some guidance or advice so that I can perform at a higher level, at the level that my teammates are performing? That's like,
that shows strength.
Strength, and it also, like, other people respect you way more for having opened up and said, hey, I need help, I need guidance, I need advice, because I want to do better. That's massive. You're put in a vulnerable place when you ask for help, but it does nothing but help you.
It's in the name. in the name. But like, it does nothing but benefit you to like ask for help when you need it.
Yeah.
People are like, okay, you recognize your weaknesses. Like, yeah, I respect that. That shows strength on your end. That shows that you're self-aware to recognize this.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Another thing I think it does is that it inspires others. Because not everybody grew up in a household, I didn't, I certainly did it, where it was normal to be vulnerable with your emotions and talk about things. And so when I saw other people doing it with such ease, it was like, wow, that's really cool. And so that's something that I wanted to emulate. And so I made a point of like, you know, trying to be vulnerable, you know, at the right time as much as possible. And in the hopes that in the same way I was so inspired by others to do that, that I could also in turn inspire others to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something, if you can get comfortable with doing it, you know, it can really inspire others around you to come out of their own shell. Yeah.
Yeah. It can bring you closer to others. The household I grew up in, I was like, it was like, oh, like if you need to talk about something, like talk about it, whatever. Like, even though like I would be accepted for like whatever I had to say, I never feel like I could share how I was like truly feeling in situations. So it would like lead to me like pushing down, like hiding a lot of my emotions. Like I've always been like a really independent person. And so the way I deal with things is I kind of like, you know, I know what feelings are present. I can be very logical about them, but I just kind of like bury them and don't deal with them until they come up again. I don't, like, and I function fine. It's like feelings are such a weird thing to deal with. Cause like I can talk about things openly. Like as I've said before, like I love therapy. I go to therapy and I can talk about these things that are really vulnerable with just like a straight face. I get them out of the way. It's like logical. And I just like, things just don't really affect me emotionally for me to like want to bring them up. I don't even know what I'm saying, but like,
I think you're talking about compartmentalizing.
Okay, maybe.
And disassociating.
I'm being diagnosed.
We're neither of us are therapists. We're just two girls who.
I'm just like but like I'd have like a hard time being vulnerable in my household. Is basically like the sum of where I'm trying to go with that. And I feel like that also comes from, you know, my parents. I feel like it's hard to be vulnerable if like your parents you weren't like taught that growing up. Like my dad is like a very prideful man and he learned that from his parents. And so, you know, there's still, you know, I love my dad and obviously like I know a lot about my own parents, but like I feel like I also don't really know him as much as I could. Especially now that I'm an adult. And if you're going to tell me things about how he's feeling, what's actually going on in his mind, I'd be able to like relate to him and understand him a lot better. Like obviously being a kid is hard. Like you can't really have your parents like open up about things because that kind of like burdens you as a child if you don't understand. But at the same time, if your parents also kind of don't open up and don't show the sense of vulnerability, you don't learn how to.
No.
So it's like, it's something you have to like teach yourself and really work on as you get older. And I think most of us are constantly on a journey where we're learning how to be vulnerable every single day.
It's so true, but I love that you brought that up because I do feel like it's a generational issue as well. Because I know my grandmother and my father, they never say I love you. And they don't say it to me either, like very rarely. And it's like, I know they do. I know they care about me so much, but they're just not comfortable saying it out loud. Yeah. Which I find so weird because like I say it so easily to my friends, to my dog, like not in a flippant way, but I truly mean it. But I feel comfortable saying that. I feel comfortable telling the people around me how I feel about them, how much they mean to me, how grateful I am for them, for their presence in my life. And I think that involved a lot of unlearning for me. So it is hard to tell people how you feel about them, right? Yeah. So I had to unlearn that shame attached to like bearing your soul and telling the people that you love them. But now it's like second nature to me, and it was down to practice, right? But what I love is I'm watching so many like people on TikTok who are parenting their kids who are from my generation, and it's such a different parenting style. Yeah. So different.
I love watching parents on TikTok and seeing how they raise their children. There's so much like inspiration in that, and so much of that I want to incorporate when I eventually have my own children. Like, it's just, we're becoming way more aware of emotions and feelings, and, you know, being accepting of that, and like listening to kids and what they have to say. It's so, there's so many pros to it. Like, I'm seeing nothing but good things and watching all these videos, and like, it's so inspiring, honestly, because I wish like I was kind of raised a bit more in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you said about, you know, your parents not really saying, like, I love you when you're growing up. I didn't really either. And so now I can say, like, I love you to my friends if I have a partner, but I have a hard time saying that to my family because I didn't hear it as a kid. Like, that much as a kid. And yeah, once again, I know they love me, and I love my parents. I love my family. She's just going for a little stroll, if you can hear that. Get little tippy tappies. Should put socks on her.
We should have put socks on her.
Anyway.
So we've kind of touched on this, but like, why is being vulnerable important?
Just human connection is like the baseline of it. It allows, you can relate more to others, empathize more with others. You know, it's also just, it's good for your mental and emotional well-being as well. You're not holding on to like any burdens or any emotions. Like, it allows you to like kind of speak your mind more freely as well, which I think is also really important.
I totally agree with that. I'm a big believer in that the more you hold things in, it will show up in your physical health as illness. I'm a big believer in that. So I'm all about like talking things out, getting, you know, saying what you need to say in a respectful way, obviously respecting other people's boundaries and, you know, all of that jazz. But I'm a big believer in saying what you need to say, right? Instead of holding it in until you have an eventual explosion of emotion, and it's not good for anybody. So yeah, it's such an important thing. Big thing for me, it really fosters intimacy in relationships, in your friendships, in your romantic relationships. It's massive.
Yeah. I don't know, just be vulnerable.
Be vulnerable.
Be vulnerable. She's doing butt scooches now.
This is a nightmare.
We normally put her in the bedroom, but she wasn't liking that today. She was
going
like
a bit crazy,
barking to get out.
Yeah, I think it's just too hot and she's uncomfortable. So
I'm also uncomfortable. I'm sweaty right now.
Yeah, we're uncomfortable. But thank you for putting up with it. I know it's not.
You know what? But we're expressing that we're uncomfortable right now. That's a little bit vulnerable.
Yeah, we're being vulnerable. Look, things didn't go as planned today. Like, life doesn't go as planned, and Billy wasn't enjoying being in the bedroom. She was barking, and so we decided to put her out here, and we put carpet and blankets and anything we could on the floor to minimize her nails tippy-tapping. And yeah, anyway, we're all feeling a bit uncomfortable in this heat wave, but we're doing what we can, and we wanted to show up regardless, and so you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know, dog mom life.
Yeah. She's so silly.
I feel like she should do a cameo at this point so people know who we're talking about. Hey, Billy.
Come here.
Sweetheart, come say hi. Come meet everybody. Come jump up. Good girl.
Okay, if you're watching this, you can see her.
This is little Billy. Whoa. You ready? Whoa, here she is. She loves Sarah. Sarah's her best friend. Hey, look at your belly. You're so cute. Yeah, okay, say bye. Good girl. That's little Billy. And that's who's been a troublemaker today, but we love her nonetheless.
Yeah, she's just a little silly Billy.
She's a silly Billy.
Anyway.
On that note,
I think this is where we should get it off for today. A lot of interruption.
A lot of interruptions, but you know, you just got to go with the flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's real life over here.
We're always keeping it real. Shut up.
It's, you know, the heat makes you loopy a bit.
Oh yeah, and sleep deprivation. Deprivation.
Deprivation? Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do better
This
next
heat
week.
wave.
All right.
Anyway.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate your input, so feel free to reach out to us with any feedback, comments, or suggestions for future episodes.
If you would like to support us, please be sure to leave us a rating and review on your favorite platform and subscribe so you never miss us.
See you next week.
Toodles.